Welcome to the Inspiration Contagion podcast, where we spread inspiration one story at a time. I am your host, Holly Jean Jackson. Each episode spotlights and interviews one transformational leader, their stories, and their advice for how you too can lead yourself and others through inspiration. If you are a visionary seeking to uplevel your leadership skills, then this is the podcast for you. I invite you today to spread inspiration like a contagion. Welcome to the Inspiration Contagion movement. All right, welcome to episode 43 of the Inspiration Contagion podcast. Today's episode is also being recorded for YouTube, so if you'd prefer to watch today, be sure to check out the link in the show notes. Today's guest is Camille Miller. Camille is the founder and chief visionary of the Natural Life Business Partnership, or NLBP, a global network of soul-centered entrepreneurs working together as a collaborative community to nurture and support each other's spirit while growing meaningful, high-earning businesses. Camille believes there is no secret to creating a massively profitable business that aligns with your authentic self. There is, however, a need to shift your mindset to get there. In creating her global network at NLBP, she has dovetailed her strength in business with her passion for living a natural lifestyle. Before dedicating her full-time efforts to helping soul-centered business owners unlock their personal potential, her professional experience included over 30 years in senior level leadership with extensive experience in operations, sales, marketing, and brand management efforts with both profit and nonprofit organizations. She is also the host of Six Figure Soul Summit. It's doing good and making money, which highlights soul-centered entrepreneurs who crush the six-figure ceiling and still feel they are in alignment with the universe and their purpose. With that, welcome, Camille.
Thank you. That's great. I've never actually heard someone read my whole profile, so it was interesting to listen to.
Yeah, it's kind of fun to hear. And actually, when I was preparing and reading over it, I was like, wow, I love the way your intro is written. So it kind of inspired me to rewrite mine. I love your extensive background in business and how you're doing this from a soul-centered perspective, which is such a unique standpoint. So with that, why don't you tell the listeners a little bit more about yourself and your business?
Yeah, well, that was a pretty good background, but most of my background is in not-for-profit strategic management, and that's where that all came from. And before I created this community, I was an executive director and CEO for the Northeast Organic Farming Association, which allowed me to work in Washington on the organic label and with our senators in the organic caucus and in the food system itself. So that's kind of what was the foundation for this, because in doing that job, one, I had absolute passion. Like, I just loved it. I got up every day. I loved what I did. I loved the people I worked with, but I met such holistically based, soul-centered people, right? They were doing jobs. They were out there like farmers and acupuncturists and functional medicine doctors and all these people that were doing it, and even the scientists that were in the food system itself. So when that job was defunded, which was in 2015, I was kind of lost and figuring out, okay, what do I do next? Like, where can I still find that passion when I wake up every day? So I was looking for a community like myself, like people like me, like, where do I go? And I definitely embraced both that science and the soul, but I didn't want to be in those like woo-woo holistic groups either. Right. So I wanted that professionalism, and I wanted a really high bar of the people that I hung around with, because when you surround yourself with people, that's who you become. And when I couldn't find it, I was just able to create it. And then over the 5 years, we've built from an in-person coffee club to this global network. And we went online in 2018, which really proved successful in 2020 during the pandemic. So yeah.
That is so exciting and amazing. And I can completely relate to what you're sharing around the nonprofit world. It's one of my all-time favorite roles outside of, creating my own business was in nonprofit. I recall working for a group actually in North Carolina called the Institute for Emerging Issues. And yeah, and I agreed. So basically we worked across policy issues, healthcare, infrastructure, education, some of the big 5 issue areas for the state. And you're right, there's so much, people are so passionate, especially in the nonprofit space, because they're doing the work for the sake of the work and for the sake of the cause or the movement, because there's not necessarily the financial gain there always.
Right.
And so it is a very different environment. So I can see that as a really great foundation for giving you clarity on finding that or creating that for yourself.
Yeah, my hope is that someday I can go back into that policy work. Like the idea of this, so my membership community runs very much like a non-for-profit. The members create the masterminds, they run them themselves. I'm not a part of that. We have book clubs, but we also bring up policy issues. And there was a hope that we would have a policy committee and start working with other organizations to build that collaboration around things that are important to us. So there is that hope that I get back into all that policy work.
Well, if you do, I should connect you with the people at that group, because their model for policy is one of the best models I've seen, because I researched that nationally probably 10 years ago, and it's incredible. So I love that you're doing that. That's really exciting. Yeah. So Camille, since this is the Inspiration Contagion podcast, I wanted to ask you, what makes you such an inspirational leader, or what's your secret sauce?
I would say like just putting that person first, right? So I was always taught as a leader that, even decades ago in my smaller roles when I was just beginning management, was always the person that was working for me or with me or under me was to explain how important their piece of the puzzle was, right? So they always knew that every single thing they did was so important to the overall mission. So that's a big part of it. It's I always worked in a team kind of collaborative way. So of course it reflects in my membership too. But I always just listen. Like, what do you need? Or to say to my team, hey, this is what my vision is. I have no idea how to get there. So what do you think? Because I really do believe in surrounding yourself with people that are experts in what they know. And lead from a place that we're a team. Like, I don't know more than the people around me. It's just that I have the vision. So that's why my title is Chief Visionary, because I just want to keep to the vision and have the team do all of the pieces that get me there. They're the real architects in what I'm doing.
Well, and I think that's so wise and so great. Some of the best leaders that I know, they know and recognize they are the visionaries for their organization. And there's even a book about this where you're either an implementer or a visionary, and you need the people to complement you to get it done. So it takes us some vulnerability and maturity to say, hey, I don't have all the answers. This is my vision. And in terms of how we're going to get there, that's why I surround myself with amazing, smart, talented people on my team to get us to that end game. So that's really cool. Was that hard for you to step into, or was that pretty easy because of your experience?
It's always been who I was. I didn't realize that it was any different until, decades later. I still have people that I managed 30 years ago that call and just be like, oh my God, you're like, because of you, I did this, or because of you, I did that. Or I had this one woman, she was awesome. Well, she's a woman now. Now she's, but she was younger when she came to me right out of grad school, I think, or it could have been college. I don't know. She was young. And, a couple of years after she worked for me, she got a very big position. And she said, can you send me a picture of you? I have a wall of inspiring women and you're one of mine. And I just want to put you up. And I was like, whoa, that is so cool. So yeah, but it's always been who I am. So even in my community, I'm just always listening for what people need and I fill the gaps.
Yeah, no, I think that's incredible. That's the best feeling, and honestly, the best gift you can ever receive is when something that you did inspires someone else and it helps them see the best version of them or step into something more confidently. Leading that team or that initiative is just the best high.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So I also wanted to ask you, how do you define inspiration? Like, what does it mean to you?
That's a tough one. So I don't know, it's my inspiration or to inspire others, but to from a leadership point of view, it's to make people kind of look at themselves in a better lens, right? To say, hey, you can do this too. You know, I have my own summit and I use it to inspire others to just tell a story and a journey so that they may be able to see themselves in it and connect and inspire, you know, them to go through that journey as well. You know, I think inspire is really to give hope, to have faith, you know, and trust. Hope, trust, faith. I think those are the 3 steps though you get to. You hope someone's going to do it, you have faith that they may, and then you trust that they will.
Yeah, I love that. And that's so appropriate right now. And I think there's also, especially this year, a lot of people that might be listening right now and they're struggling with hope and faith. And I guess to people that are listening right now, what words of wisdom do you have for people that are having setbacks or particular seasons of challenge? How do they keep that hope and that faith and stay inspired when they're in a storm?
Yeah. So for any entrepreneur, and that's basically who I work with, there are high ups and high lows. Right? It is just these waves, and they keep coming. And to let everyone know, they come at every level. I still have them, right? It's just, they say new level, new devil, right? You still have all of those waves. But as an entrepreneur, the most important thing is to acclimate to what's happening around you. To really, they use the word pivot a lot in 2020, but you had to be able to take a moment and step back and say, where's the gap? What's needed right now? And that's the most inspiring thing. So if someone's sitting here just going, well, I can't do this and I can't do that, well, that's a limiting belief because you believe you can't, so you won't. But if you believe you can and you see opportunity everywhere you look, I believe 2021 is even a bigger year of opportunity. I think opportunity is just screaming from every corner. That so many entrepreneurs can step into the light and do whatever they want or makes their heart sing. And you know, that's what I always teach, like just stay in your lane of joy and all the rest will come to you. But if it feels good, then stay there. Like do that. Stay in what feels good. But it's, you have to kind of stay in a positive mindset, which is really hard. I get it. It's been a really tough year, but just say, what can I learn from this? How can I move on? I'm a big believer, so I have a very good mindset, but I teach mindset, and I always come from a place of nothing bad ever happens to me. So what's my lesson here? Everything happens for a reason, and things crash all the time. Like as an entrepreneur, like I had a rough week, but I just went, okay, what did I learn from this? Like what's my next steps? Because obviously if a door closed, it's because another one opened wider and I have to walk in that direction. So just keep on the path of looking for lessons.
I love that. And I like the, that's a weird echo. New level, new devil. And it's so true because I agree entrepreneurship and really life, but it's more extreme with entrepreneurship. There is that roller coaster. And I agree, like the better equipped you are to handle the ups and downs and just like you said, kind of step back, recognize, okay, this is a low and what door is opening or what lesson am I learning? I agree. Like I recently had a very heavy season the last 8 weeks and I kept doing the, positivity and learning thing. But I still kept kind of hitting my head against the wall. And I just kept asking, the universe and myself, like, hey, what lesson am I missing that I'm still stuck in this season? So for people that are in that situation, I encourage you to really just sit with, what other lesson am I not getting if you're having like the same repetitive issue, or like you were just saying, what pivot do I need to make? If it's not a lesson, it's probably a pivot that you're missing. And then eventually it will open. And I agree also, you really have to be in that positive mindset. The more you complain and despair and
Yeah.
think about the negative, you're just going to attract more of that. So, vent, get it out of your system, feel what you need to feel, and then get back to your vision long term and really just sink into that. Like for me,
Yeah.
that really grounded me during this season was looking at my long term vision, remembering what I'm marching towards versus despairing in what's happening right now. So I love that.
Yeah. Yeah. It's really allowing that moment to pass through you and not get angry with it or try to work through. A lot of people try to work through problems, and that's not helping at all. You're just setting resistance there. You just kind of allow it to pass through and just say, okay, let me approach this from a different place.
Yeah, no, I agree too. I had this period recently where I kept trying to fix the problem and I kept hitting a wall. And so finally I was like, okay, well, everything I'm trying is failing. So I'm going to take a break for a couple weeks and just work on myself
Mm-hmm.
and then come back to it with fresh eyes, fresh perspective, and it'll open up. So I agree. It's like kind of realizing, okay, well, this is a pattern or this isn't working. Perhaps I just need to allow this and take a break and then come back to it when I'm rejuvenated.
Yeah, I think it was Einstein, but I'm not 100% sure. He said you can't fix a problem from the same mindset you created it.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah.
Like, of course, it was probably Einstein because he's
Yeah,
brilliant.
I think it was him.
Yeah, and I
Yeah.
mean, think about it. That's why we have that saying, sleep on it. A
Yeah.
lot of things when you're emotional and things are amplified, you can't think about it logically. I have so many people that have come to me recently, clients, loved ones, and they're facing a storm and it's very emotional. It's a big low on the roller coaster. And my advice to them typically is, I don't have the answer for you, but you need to do something to take care of yourself and sleep on it. And then
Yeah.
get yourself in a better frame of mind and then start trying to figure out what things you could do and ask people that you trust that have more experience than you to brainstorm with you. But you can't solve it when your tank is completely empty and you're so
Exactly.
emotionally amped.
Exactly.
Yeah. So the other question I wanted to ask you is, we've talked about this roller coaster. How did you define success for yourself and how did you arrive at this definition?
So people define success very differently. And I would say I define it very differently today than I probably did, 25 years ago. To me, 25 years ago, success was that fancy car in the driveway. It was money in my bank account. It was traveling. It was material things. Where today, success is now I'm more of a
Minimalist?
yes, thank you. I was like, that word's not coming out. So I actually got happier when I moved to a much smaller house, when I'm able to pay all my bills because I don't live big anymore. But I don't need any of it, which is like a totally different mindset. And for me, that's success. Like I wake up and there's no problems because I don't overlive. I have everything I need. Success is like when all of my kids are home and we have this beautiful meal, or, it's being surrounded by friends and still having a life that I love. Like I get to wake up every day. I've always worked from my home, so the pandemic didn't change that for me. But I meet people all over the world, and I have these fantastic connections. To me, that's success. To just be able to be happy and joyful and constantly learning, and to me, that's success.
I love that. And I feel like this year, I certainly have learned minimalism in a material way because I haven't had my things for 8 weeks moving across the country. And it really does teach you what's most important, what you can live without. There's a lot of stuff we can live without.
Oh yeah.
And getting back to this, the basics of simplicity and being happy. And I agree. For me, I love connecting with people that I've never met face to face. And I have relationships all around the world with incredible people that are doing really inspiring things. This podcast is one of those avenues.
Hmm.
And it keeps me inspired and excited for all the things we can create and surrounded by people that are doing amazing things in the world and defining success in probably the way that will make most people, happy. It's very individual and unique. But when we get outside of the physical things or having possessions or having the job title or the big house, and you get to the basics, which I think this pandemic has really taught us, is
Yeah.
family matters, flexibility, our health matters. These really basic essential things, that's what matters the most.
Yeah. Yeah. Definitely during the pandemic, I think the pandemic kind of made us so aware of what was important because that's what we prioritized, right? So I'm sure everyone kind of met new friends and kind of lost some people in their lives, and all of it was important. I was very blessed that I still have both my parents with us, and when they got sick during the pandemic, I'm able to be there because I can work from everything. Like I'm very lucky that I get to visit. All of my kids are at college, but I get to visit them all. And I got to do that because of the lifestyle I live. I'm able to do it, and I'm not sitting there worried about a paycheck or. I think it's much different when you work for somebody else. So yeah, success
Absolutely.
is kind of just living my life.
Love it. A life you've created
A
by
life that I
design.
created and I can change or recreate at any time. It's like perfect until it's not.
Yeah, that's great. That's so awesome. I completely agree. But as we all know, like you said, the roller coaster, there are some challenges and obstacles that we face. So, what are some of the big challenges or obstacles that you faced along that journey to defining success in your life?
Oof. Um, there's probably been a lot of them. Um, but just, learning every single piece of it, like even growing the business, and now it's like a new success because we're scaling in a different way. We're adding new levels of membership because that's what's needed. But it's like starting all over again, right? It's new. It's like, oh God, I've been through this before, but now it's at a different level. So how do I do it from here? Going from, you and I have had this conversation, going from, when it was just me and I'm talking to everyone that's coming into the community, but now it's impossible. So how do we start to make things digital, but it's so impersonal to me. So how do we make it personal enough? And, so those are some changes that, those are ups and downs and struggles, like new level, new devil, same thing. But I'm always able to pivot. Like I always go deep and say, like, how do I fix it? And knowing that I have the ability to do it. And sometimes that's hard because sometimes I don't trust myself enough and I'm getting better and better at it. Another really hard piece with the entrepreneurship is getting out of your own day to day and becoming that chief visionary, becoming that next, especially when you've created the company. Very hard step. So those are all parts of it. When I went through my divorce, it was devastating, but no one knew in my business side, but all of a sudden I'm a full-time mom of 3 kids with no backup, and I'm 100% financial support for them. So it's like, oh crap. But life happens to all of us. So I'm grateful for all of it though.
Yeah. And what I love when you shared those obstacles and challenges is you talked about trusting yourself and how you're still working on working that muscle. I
Mm-hmm.
think one of the most difficult lessons for anyone in life, entrepreneur or not, is really trusting ourselves more and having faith when things are, in that valley with the roller coasters headed downhill, and just knowing that you'll figure it out, even if
Yeah.
you don't know how in that moment. That's probably the biggest lesson that all of us could learn even more.
Yeah. And that somebody else knows the answer. Like, I don't have to have all the answers. I have to find people that do. And that's actually been a hard struggle for me. Like, even little things, like I'm remodeling a bathroom right now, and I couldn't find a cut, or I found them. I couldn't afford a contractor to do what I wanted to do. And I was just like, oh my gosh. And then my brother was just like, well, GC it yourself. You can figure this out. And I'm like, no, I can't, nor do I want to. But I ended up doing it and learning so much. And there's things that sometimes I don't even know. I was like, I don't even know how that gets done or what it's called. But I've learned it was actually a lesson for me to trust myself that I could figure this out. And it was on a personal level, but it was very important to me. Like, I bought this house myself. I need something fixed. I'm going to figure out how to do it. Other people figure out how to do it, and those little things. But to be able to also walk away, because there's days where I can't figure it out, nor do I have the bandwidth to try to figure it out. And I'm just like, I'm going to figure that out another day, and it will get figured out.
Yeah.
Right. So just like, I couldn't figure out what to do with the floor. Well, guess what? I'm going to lay that floor myself, because I had a contractor I can't get to show up anymore. And I was like, wait, all right. So I only have like painting and spackling. And I was like, I know how to do all of that stuff. So why don't I just do it? And now, like, it's much brighter. And now I have a floor. And I was like, I bet I could lay that floor. And if I can't, so what? It's a little bathroom. Who's going to see it? I was like, I think I'm going to try that. So,
Yeah, those DIY experiences, whether they're personal or not, they're so meaningful and empowering. And it's a really important part of our process of maturing and growing and building that confidence.
yeah.
So that's a really great, great story.
Yeah. I don't think you have to know everything. But if you're curious, figure that part out. And you might get into it and say, you know what? I just need to know the basics. I know that this is a path I need to go down, but it's a lot easier to pay an expert to set it up for me. So and knowing the difference, because I think a lot of entrepreneurs go down that path and I say they go too wide. Like, they try to learn it all, and that's not your zone of genius, right? You just stay in your zone of genius. And if something feels uncomfortable, sometimes it's because you need to learn that lesson. So, choose wisely.
Yeah, choose the ones you want to try to learn, and know your limits and know when to outsource it. And you're right, you don't have to have all the answers, because who does? That's not possible.
Right.
But I wanted to also ask you, is there a story of inspiration that you're known for that you can share with our listeners?
A story of inspiration that I'm known for? I don't know.
Like a story you like to share with your community and your tribe.
The biggest story I share is how I ended up here. Like, kind of like where we started. Like, people are always like, how did you come up with this? And I tell them, I couldn't find people like me, so I created my own tribe, right? And I love watching my tribe grow. That's inspiring for some people, but like I said, the most important part of is kind of just staying in your lane of joy, and being the architect of your own life. And I just try to stay in that space. Like, when I raise my kids, I tell them the same thing. So I have kids in the creative arts, and I can't tell you how many people came up to say, I can't believe you're telling your kids that it's okay to be an actor, or it's okay to be an artist, or one's a costume designer, one's a film critic. Like, and I'm like, that's their lane of joy. Like, why wouldn't it be okay? You know, it's like that kind of thing. So I try to inspire people just to kind of stay authentic to who they are. I don't know if that's quite an inspiring story, but
I think
that's
it's
what
very
people
inspiring.
find most inspiring about me, is because I'm always asking people, where did your joy come from? And then let's start there and create your life from there.
Well, and I think it's inspiring because a lot of parents, they're not necessarily, like modeling that way. And I think it's really important for people to be happy to not force what they believe their children should be, but to allow their children to discover what they're passionate about and stick
Yeah.
with that versus bringing them down. So I think that is very inspiring.
Yeah. I also have the belief that, you know, working for someone else is like the worst thing you can do, because you're selling your time for money, you know, not your creativity. And you could lose that job in an instant. And we kind of saw that in 2020, right? Like there is no safety in that.
Well, and I think that that's been going on for many years. Why I started my business is because I had so many layoffs and I was a top performer, getting bonuses and, just creating amazing things for other companies. And I realized that loyalty doesn't really exist in the corporate environment, or if it did, that was decades ago. And so it's not really possible to live that way anymore. We're in more of a gig economy now. All right, excellent. So, one of the other questions I wanted to ask you is around tribe and culture leadership, because that's how you identified for your primary leadership style. So,
Yeah.
what would you say are some of the key characteristics, values, and traits that are most important to creating a tribe?
So for any tribe, like-mindedness. Like you all have to come from the same place. Like if if it's a political tribe, they all have the same viewpoint, right? Ours is a spiritual tribe. It doesn't matter what you do, it's who you are as a person. So that's where our tribe comes together, but you can have tribes for anything. I think the most important thing is that you're like-minded, that you're all coming from that same mind frame. And when you're creating a tribe or any group or whatever you're doing, if you're the leader like me, I am setting that bar of like character. I think that's the right word, right? Of how everybody else is going to act. That personality, like the tribe creates its own personality, right? Of what is expected, its own social norms, but it comes from the top. I think that's anywhere in society. But as you form groups, there's a reason why mine works and why there's such a kinship and why everyone comes back, and I'm lucky. I just got this amazing, I'm going to share it with you. I just got this most amazing email right before I jumped on from a brand new member. And I was like, oh my God. It says, I just wanted to drop you a note and thank you for the amazing community you have created. I never met so many like-minded and wonderful people in such a short amount of time or ever in my life. I feel like I found a home and a pool of great human beings to bounce off ideas, share experiences, wisdom, and most importantly, I walk away from every conversation a little bit richer. Thank you for all you do. And that's part of the tribe, right? So that's what I want to happen.
That is a beautiful testimonial.
Yeah, that was from like one of my newest members who just wrote, like, he literally just joined. So maybe a month ago, 30 days ago. But that's what it is. So part of my tribe is when a new member comes, you reach out for a one-on-one and make sure, and the first thing you ask is how I can support you. Not what you sell, not what you do, it's how can I support you? So so as soon as someone opens and comes into the tribe, they have all of these one-on-ones with people asking, how can I help you? How can I help you?
Wow.
Yeah,
Well,
and
that's really great because it's like showing the generosity of the tribe that you're creating.
that's
And
what the
it's
job,
about,
right?
yeah. And it's about that listening that you said is kind of your superpower, and who you are authentically. So that's really, really beautiful. So I
Yeah.
wanted to ask you, how did you go about building your tribe? You've kind of alluded to this a little bit, but maybe a little more detail.
So in the very beginning, it was all in person, one-on-one. I just met some people that were like me and told my story. Like, I want to do this tribe. Like, I want to get people in it. Now, we've refined that over the 5 years, right? Now we're very high achieving. Before it was like anybody who was just even holistically minded in some aspect. But I went around and we did coffees in person and we did meet and greets in person. We did what we called member spotlights. So we went to people's offices and they had the floor for like a half an hour, and then everyone went around and did their 30 seconds. And we were in person in a group. But I always talked about my background and the policy work I really wanted to get involved in and the type of person that I wanted to join the tribe. So it was never a heavy sales thing. It was just like, this is my vision for this group. And literally, half the room would always sign up. And then from there, I'd ask someone else who wants to host next month. And we'd go around and then we spread through cities and then states. And then I divorced at the end of 2017. So I moved out, had all the kids, and I couldn't travel as much anymore because they were younger and they were just in high school. They were new to high school, right? So I kind of had to change my business to reflect who I now was. And Zoom, I'd also started hearing about Zoom. So what I started to do was hold coffee with Camilles on Zoom, and then people had to get me, but introverted people would not join Zoom because they didn't like the technology. It was really rough. It was rough. But it took some time, but by the end of the year, we got people on Zoom. And I also thought it was really important to have a global aspect to your business. So I started to teach that. We did lose some people along the way who wanted that local connection. So some states and areas still met in person, but I wasn't there anymore. And then I started to hold I used to have group coaching calls. We have what I call my entrepreneur's frustration line. It's what works, what doesn't, and why. And you call in, you say whatever your problem is, we celebrate your successes, we talk about your frustrations. And we still have those today. Those are our very first calls we ever did. We still have them today, twice a month. And those went to Zoom. So then people started to see each other. And then it became this community because, wow, you live in California and I live in New Jersey, and I know you, I have this relationship with you. And Zoom actually became our vehicle in the beginning of 2018. And then I started to record everything we did. So as we built out, we peppered all over the place in 2019. We became more international 2020. We were already set this beautiful stage for who we are. And actually in the beginning of 2020, we had doubled all of our prices and went for a very high achieving entrepreneur because we felt that there were some groups that were kind of doing what we were, but they weren't exactly. So I wanted to differentiate. And it just kind of kept going, and we're very lucky. And then we went from the sole proprietor, and now in 2021, we're releasing the new membership for the sole leader for those that want to be in the CEO position. So it just kind of happens, but there were ups and downs through all of it, if that makes sense. Like, it's never that smooth.
Well, and the people that say it is, we know they're lying because you're always learning something. I find that when you decide to grow into the next level, you're going to have one of the biggest valleys because there's something you need to learn to step into that next level of who you need to be as a leader.
And not everyone follows you. And I was okay with, I knew it and I was okay with it. So like when we went to Zoom, we definitely lost members that didn't want to be on Zoom. didn't want a global aspect to their business, but I thought it was really the right thing to do for the community that was following me, right? So and which proved very successful 2 years later, right? So that kind of thing. And when I first went to when I went to Zoom, I actually had leaders in every different states or around the states that ran the in-person thing, and I think we did that for like a year and a half. But it really wasn't growing, and a lot of people missed me. So then I realized that I was the glue holding this all together. And, then I was like, okay, how do I fix that? Right? That's not sustainable. It's not scalable. How do I fix that? But we have. So anyone can have contact with me in the community, and they do all the time. We meet all the time. So, and we have a private group where I'm in all day long answering questions and helping people out. So we just had to figure out how to tweak what works and what doesn't.
Yeah. And that's the definition of being a successful business owner and entrepreneur. Yeah. So I did want to ask you, how do you define a thriving culture, and how did you create that inside of your community?
So a thriving culture, or when people send you testimonials like the one I just read, but consistently, I get them all the time, and I get thank you notes, and I get, and people refer our community all the time. So we really run on word of mouth. We have never had any major marketing. And that's kind of one of the things as we grow that I have to kind of tweak and figure out a little bit better, because it's not scalable the way we're doing it, at least not exactly the way we're doing it. So that's, thriving is when you don't have complaints, you don't have people saying it doesn't work for me. There's always some people it doesn't work for, but we want to help them out of the community, if that makes sense. Because it's like a rotten apple, right? If one goes bad, you don't want them infecting all the other apples. So it's just kind of keeping this very high vibration. Like when you come to our community or even a meet and greet, like you leave with this feeling of warmth and love. And, that's it. So if that ever leaves, I know I have a serious problem. If it doesn't feel good and people aren't saying nice things.
I love that definition. And I think that makes so much sense that you're going to get those constant testimonials, those referrals. That is the liquid gold of being in business. That's incredible. So I hope that continues. And I'm not worried. I'm sure you'll continue to have that same vibe in your community, just from what I know of you. So this has been great. We're actually going to dive into the lightning round of questions next. All right. So what's your favorite book?
So up until a week ago, I would have said The Shack, and now it's Conversations with God.
Oh, I love both of those. Those are so incredible.
Oh my God. I just did books 1 through 3, and I just did 4, which kind of pulled together like so much for me.
That's great. And what networking or community group do you love the most?
Well, I have to say my own, the Natural Life Business Partnership. I'm trying to think like what would be, so I don't really do a lot of networking though outside. I actually find the best networking is through people that already know, like, and trust me and know exactly who I am. They usually say, hey, you have to meet this person. And I make a point to do that.
Yeah, no, that's great. Most people that have communities, I expect them to answer with their community for that question.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I'd be worried. What's the best piece of advice you could share with others today?
Stay in your lane of joy.
All right. And if you could share one message with the whole world, what would that be?
Well, stay in your lane of joy is one of them, but just to kind of allow yourself to receive all the opportunity around you. Like if you're just open to everything that is coming your way, that's how you stay in your joy. But there's so many awesome things coming at you. You just have to be in the position to receive. So you have to stay open enough to receive all the beauty in this world and all the blessings that are coming to you.
Yeah, I completely agree. That's great advice. All right, so this has been wonderful. Camille's been really generous. She's offering a free business strategy chat. I'll have a link for that, how you can sign up for that, in the show notes on her website. I also will have links to all of her social media and her website. So if you want to follow her and learn more about Camille and her journey in the community, you can see that in the show notes. Anything else you'd like to add?
Can't think of anything at this moment.
Great.
But thank you.
Thank you. It was a pleasure having you on the podcast, and I look forward to next week's episode. To all of our listeners, thank you for tuning in. Thank you for joining the show today. I hope you were inspired. More importantly, I hope you take action. What is one thing you can do in this moment that will inspire someone? Without action, nothing changes. Be the change you wish to see in the world. If this show truly inspired you, we ask that you share it through your network. Help us spread the light and inspiration in the world. I look forward to seeing you here next week.